watch television, because it begins to form and influence the way you think, which is very accurate. Now, what Waldorf School does is let you encourage your creativity in every way that you want to pursue it. It doesn't tell you that you have to study certain things at a certain. You don't have to learn, for example, how to read and write at a certain point. They let you determine when the right time is for you to do that. And I think I saw that a lot with Mr. Corlette, who a mention has been made of his distance from participation. He was not evident in the halls, that he did not involve himself in a lot of activities, but you always felt his presence.
That's interesting. Ali is going to be creating a school, and I think in our talks, Ali, you had said that you're very open to suggestions about how the school itself would run. Could you talk a little bit about what your dream about your school, boarding school for girls?
Yeah, in what we are, this is a project which I'm doing with my dear wife, and the idea is to create a school in Somaliland, in the northern city, in Berbera, the coastal city of Berbera, Somaliland, on the Red Sea. And the idea is to purely only for girls and purely for underprivileged girls, or girls coming from the nomadic, in villages and the nomadic society, in tribal society, and to teach them to be. The school is called Egal Academy for Girls. We named it after my father, Egal Academy for Girls. And the whole, it is the Institute for Female Leadership and Development. And to build the girls into leadership roles, and that they can, not that they are not hampered by the society and by the culture that they live in. Because although the nomadic society gives a lot of freedom to the girls and they do a lot of the work, but still, the men are more dominant. And girls' education is not, girls are not educated. The boys are given preference to the, for education. So to build up this, this school with the idea that girls perform, develop them sports-wise, intellectually, and for them to be in leadership roles later on. And the whole idea is so that a place where it is in a safe environment where they can express themselves, where they can express their art or their talent or whatever they have, and, sort of like a cocoon, where they can have their full potential, come out, bloom, as it were.
One of the reasons...
Sounds very exciting. How is the society to accept the leadership roles of girls? And the second point is Oprah Winfrey started a school in Johannesburg, I think with a similar story in mind. And clearly, if there any improvement or upgrading of society is concerned, women is the place to focus. Because they have much more serious concerns about their future and the future of the society. So that sounds really great. Yeah, good luck.
And if I can just interrupt, really, the thing is, for example, for me and my wife and my cousin who are involved in this, and we have already, the idea is we are also part of that society. We speak the language. We know the culture. We are also from ourselves, coming from the tribal infrastructure of the country. My father and my grandfather were leaders of the society. So we, Oprah Winfrey is a foreigner coming in, so I'm very sorry to say, and trying, but this is something organically starting from the environment itself. So, nobody's going to say that you are bringing, that there is foreigners coming in to bring a new culture into the society, because I can sit across any of the tribal leaders or any of the tribal society or the city leaders and speak to them in our own language and explain to them what I want. So, it is more organically coming from the society rather than being something that is being brought in by somebody coming in on an airplane.
Yeah, that's so important. That really is important. I think you could hit a very important note there about just interference from outside rather than growth from within, and you really have a wonderful attitude in that regard, and I think you could move mountains there. From within and understanding the culture, and we don't want to go on to Somalia, but are you fairly confident about Somalia's future? Because there's been a lot of peak reporting on Somalia at the moment.
Well, if you are Somalia, people don't understand it, but there are two Somalias. There is the Somalia which you hear on the news, and the Somalia which you hear that there is Al-Shabaab, and that is 1,500 miles from where I am talking about. Oh. And then we are talking about Somalia up north. I said the Red Sea. Now the Somalia, it's called actually Somaliland. It's the old ex-British protectorate, and it has been an oasis of peace. And I am sorry I am not beating up my own father. I mean, he died in South Africa 9 years ago. But I mean, he went there, after the Civil War, and he established the government there. Although it's not recognized by anybody. So they have a police force, they have an army, they have courts, there is the parliament, 2 houses of parliament, One is called, more or less like the Senate. He made the Somaliland Constitution, which is loosely based on the United States Constitution. The upper house of parliament is from the tribal elders, and the lower, the Congress is, or the House of Representatives is elected. We had 3 elections in Somaliland. And if you go on any of the websites, you can go to Somaliland, and you can see, and Britain, Minister for Africa in the British government has been recently to Hargeisa, our capital city. Jandai Fraser, when she was in the State Department for Africa, she has been to Hargeisa. And there's a lot of people in the diplomatic world and the government, they are aware of what's going on there. Unfortunately, it's not recognized by any country yet, and it's been 20 years in that limbo situation. And the fault is ours, because we should really have blown our trumpet. But when you talk about, we call ourselves Somaliland. It's totally different from what's happening in the south. Is
it an autonomous governing area? Is it operating autonomously?
It has nothing to do with the South. We have our own money, which has been printed, during my father's time. It has its own money. It has its own courts. It has its own armed forces. It has its own police force, court system, in borders. There is the Ethiopian, government has an embassy there. The EU has a mission there, they call it development mission. It's not an embassy. So it's completely different, completely self-sustaining in country. And Somaliland, or the ex-British protectorate, was independent before the rest of Somalia, because the rest of Somalia was Italian Somalia. It was under the Italian administration after the Second World War. And we got independence before them, and then we joined, because at that time the thinking was to put all of the Somali-speaking people in the Horn of Africa under one flag. So this, but now the Ethiopian side, there's a large part of Somali people who live in Ethiopia. They call it the 5th state of Ethiopia. Djibouti was supposed to be part of Somalia, but now it's a separate country. The small Djibouti enclave on the Red Sea. It has now its own country. It's like Kuwait, one city-state. And then you have the NFD, Northern Frontier District, which is in Kenya, in the northern part of Kenya, where Dadaab, this famous refugee camp, is now. The biggest refugee camp in the world. I was listening to it on the radio today on the BBC. So, the idea of Greater Somalia has collapsed. So